Alrighty, we are back. Hello, everyone. We're getting spun up here for the last playtest session of the year for Bellum. This is closed alpha weekend 3, session 4. It's currently December 21st, and we are getting started here with this next session. There are two different rotations we're running tonight. So this first match is going to be US versus Satyr, and the second is going to be Satyr versus Insurgents. But we should be pretty much good to go here. Just finalizing some things here before we switch over to the main screen. Yeah, looks like we have all of those things set properly. Just pull up some of the chats here to get prepped. But yeah, we're very excited. Looking forward to some dynamic gameplay tonight.
Go ahead and clear. Command's gonna go ahead and give you the.
You can hear some of those command comms already popping off.
Go ahead over radio.
Platoons getting sorted and prepped to move out. All right, and we're switching over to the main screen. Here we go. All right, so once again, we are joined with Musco, our community manager, and then we've got myself, Karmcut here, the creative director. We're going to be doing some commentary, talking about the game a little bit here, answering some questions, and doing a little dev casting, just because this is the best way, I think, to kind of showcase how intense the teamwork is and how important teamwork is within the project. Of course, I sped a little bit too fast here and ended up under the map. But as we can see here in red on the southeastern side, we do have the Satyr PMC Russian element out here. And then in blue on the northwestern side of the map, on the far side in those hills, we have Ranger Regiment. And so they're going to be stepping off. It does look like for some reason Satyr is able to get an early start here. That is not intended. So it's very interesting. We're going to have to take a look at that ourselves. But Rangers are going to be starting a little bit later here. And they're going to be moving out. Looks like they're taking the time to kind of group up and brief. And, you know, those extra minutes could be vital as far as making sure that these guys have a plan going into it. All right, and we are now live on both teams. Both teams going to be moving out, and this is going to be different from this morning stream, just because our morning stream kind of had a more Insurgent versus US set for this first map. This is AO1 here. I'll kind of highlight where the AO is for the viewers, and then just because of that, the difference in the weaponry and the body armor is going to change the dynamics of the fight. It's going to be a little bit more conventional in that regard, and because of that, we're going to see, I think, a little bit more of some standard fighting. But Musco, what are you looking forward to in this match? What are you hoping to see here out of both teams?
You know, as you mentioned, you know, some interesting dynamics overall with you know, overall this weekend. I think we've seen a lot of interesting decisions from all teams, or all players in different factions. So I'm definitely interested to see, you know, closing day, closing test, see if, you know, there's been any learning experiences, if you know, some of the guys that have been playing almost all 4 tests, I want to say, have anything to, like, they want to try out before you know, going into this holiday break from our side. So yeah, just definitely looking forward to just changes in pacing here from the player side, you know, display of experience also, you know, having played a few rounds already. It's going to be very interesting to see how their, you know, game sense has developed so far this weekend.
Yeah, most definitely. So it's going to be a bit of a brawl here with the Russians moving into the majority of the map, to the center of the map, taking a commanding position. It looks like they do want to try to get as much control over that main center tree line as soon as possible. But Rangers now moving out, kind of organized, a little bit slow, even though staging has released. It looks like they still had a little bit more extra briefing that they wanted to do and get a plan down. We'll see how that timing kind of affects the map. Yeah, a little bit of a slow roll here to start out. Looks like Satyr is opting to split the platoon into 2 main elements. We see this first portion of Rangers, or excuse me, of Satyr moving up to the center of the AO, and this second element coming into kind of, I think they're prepping for a sweep northbound through this tree line. and they might get into a pretty, they're very organized, they're very aggressive right now. You can see moving out pretty fast, and Rangers still taking the time to organize themselves at the base here. So still a little confusion, it looks like. And every second matters, like every single movement and step that Satyrs able to take on the map, while Blue 4 kind of gets arranged, is going to be determining where that first engagement is, and just being able to set the conditions for the first fight. We've seen how impactful that is in the past. But yeah, this is the last playtest of this weekend. Once again, if you want to hop in on a future playtest, you can always do so by heading over to playbellum.com. We're currently in supporter closed alpha testing. Closed alpha testing happens roughly every 2 weeks. Of course, with these holidays coming up, it is going to throw probably an extra week break in the middle there. But that's roughly what we aim for. And then there are weekend tests that happen on Saturday and Sunday. It's kind of the format. And then once we move to closed beta, sometime early 2021 or 2026, excuse me, Q1 2026, we'll move it into closed beta, and that's when we imagine servers will be up persistently 24/7, and then we continue on to early access. But that's kind of the landscape and kind of path that we're taking on the road to early access, just because right now there's still a lot of things that we need to fix. There's some issues still, there's some missing content, you know. It's just very early on development still. This is still a closed alpha build, and once we get to a state where we think the servers can be up 24/7 with admin tools, you know, proper squad management tools, all that good stuff, that's kind of when we can look at keeping the servers up 24/7. But that is the reason for the weekend test. That's the reason for these alpha testers. You know, these guys are here taking the time to make sure that by the time the product reaches early access, Bellum is going to be a super polished state. It will be tested for many hours from many different players, and you guys should have, you know, the best experience possible. Looks like Rangers are finally making their way into the AO here. We have somewhat of a platoon column going on. We have it looks like 1 up front, 1 2 in the center, and 1 4 in the rear with the guns. Keeping in mind that the difference between the two factions, Rangers have the ability to use the 1 4 weapon squad. The 1 4 weapon squad is equipped with 3 M240 machine guns, which are all belt linkable, as well as the Hat team, which has the Carl Gustav, which is crew served, and is able to shoot one of the most powerful warheads in Bellum currently, with shooting the most frag. So Satyr, the Russians, on the other hand, they're equipped with kind of very aggressive squads. And what I mean by that is every squad is set the same. They don't have a weapon squad, but what they do have is a lot of grenade launchers in their squad. They have thermobaric RPGs. They have a PKM, which is, you know, a pretty chunky medium machine gun in each squad as well. They just have a lot of intense firepower, including immediate deploy smokes. Yeah, it looks like we're actually gonna get some open field fighting here. Satyr actually able to make quite some headway on the map and push all the way into this forest. It's gonna come down to the Rangers to dislodge them.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we already start seeing some of those high hill defensive positions from the Russian side. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a big challenge for the Ranger team, like displace them off of that high ground, considering how much firepower the Russians pack.
What's the difference between this and squad? Well, as you can see here, the platoons are focused on like the single engagement. It is not like a gamified game mode where you're, you know, working on capturing flags or whatnot. This first game mode and like most of the game modes that will follow are very focused on centralized platoon tactics and combat. And it's focused, you'll see that these games kind of evolve into one main central fight, and it just gives players the freedom to operate as they should, like with real world tactics and authentic strategy. This is also in combination with the fact of how our ballistics are realistic, of how we have limited lives for every player, which really does affect how these players how these players interact with the experience, because you don't want to run off and die, because it is very important that you have lives to experience the entirety of the match, and these matches do go pretty long. It's not uncommon for some people to play entire matches without dying at all, but the most people die is 3 lives, because that's pretty much it for these conventional factions. In addition to that, the crew served weapons, right? The game mode just giving you that tactical freedom to execute real world maneuvers, and just giving you the most authentic infantry feel around, as far as we can create. So that's kind of the difference. It's also just very heavily demanded on the teamwork and communication. You can see here, right? Like, these are very much 2 platoons working together with the intent to just destroy one another, right? That is very much what they're looking to do. There's no distractions or anything like that. They're just focused on throwing it into a brawl, and they can break back, they can break contact, they can make a left flank, they go frontal assault. There's a myriad of different tactics they could use, and it's all up to their players, their brains, their communication, their command, as far as how the matches play out.
I just want to make sure everybody knows you're going to hold position so we can fix formation. You guys moving is not allowing other people to fix their position. One, your position at that tree line.
And using this this downtime essentially to go over some more questions.
You need to hold that
Someone's
position
asking over at
moving
YouTube,
forward.
what is the map size right now?
Yeah, so Highlands is a 4x4 kilometer map. It's probably going to stretch a little bit further, but the maps are split into a couple AOs, so we're going to zoom out here. So this first round is going to focus on AO1, which is this area down here. The second map after that will move to AO2 on the north side here. But that's pretty much the break. So the objective, right? This is why we always say, like, Bellum's pretty hardcore. It requires a lot of thinking. It looks very simple on paper because there is no objective, right? There is no central point or central flag. There's a lot of design reasons for that, but having this AO here, and the objective is to kill the enemy without dying yourself, those conditions create dynamic player objectives as the match flows. So what I mean by that is, as one squad gets into an engagement, right? If one squad suffers a mass casualty, that becomes an objective, right? The platoon now has to work that particular problem. If there's a particular assault that's happening, right? So as we go through here and we look at this assault that might happen, right? There's a complete open strategy for Blue 4 to do any number of things on the map, total freedom. But as they get into engagements, you'll see these mini objectives occur. Taking a single house, moving to the next building, moving to the next piece of terrain, right? Rescuing individuals who require aid, right? Scouting, conducting reconnaissance. These are all objectives that occur throughout a match of Bellum, because there's the space and the time for the players to actually do these things, versus, if you throw an objective into some of these other experiences, I've seen many times right before, and we talk about it a lot, how PTFO, it actually kind of distracts players from being able to use tactics, use teamworks to the most unleashed capabilities, because they feel forced or pressured to focus on this objective that is so overbearing that they don't actually have the time or space to think or execute actual maneuvers. And that's kind of the goal of Bellum, is to kind of retrain players' brains and have them understand that, like, every decision they're making is kind of the objective, right? Every small movement that they're making forward, backwards, left, or right, like, it's all playing into how the main engagement will work. We can see right here, right, this road, right, for example, is becoming a mini objective for the Rangers, right? Figuring out, hey, how do we want to cross this road? Because once again, there's very limited information to all players on the map. There, because of the lack of, a centralized point where you expect based off the objective, enemies can be anywhere, and that pressure is overwhelming and felt on the ground. So much so that, like, even crossing this road, this is becoming an objective for this platoon. They're having to figure out, like, okay, we don't know where the enemy is. How do we cross this road in a manner that does not get us absolutely destroyed? Because once again, that limited life thing comes into play. Players don't want to die, and so these very simple terrain features end up becoming massive puzzles for the players to work through. Yeah, this road actually proving to be quite the barrier, as you can see here. These guys are kind of just waiting on this road. They're kind of skittish to cross it. That feeling, right, is very present. You can see, like, the platoon is set up as a platoon. These are things that players are naturally just doing because they know it offers them the best kind of support. We can see Sater feeling a little bit more confident, sending out more scouting and reconnaissance groups to kind of find enemy positions, right? And they'll probably hopefully report back to the main body. But as you can see here, like the objective from the Satyr side is like find the enemy, right? And they're doing so. They're coming up with a plan of how they want to do that. And then once they find the enemy, they have to fix them. By fix, we mean keep them in place so that you can, of course, assault and destroy them. And so all those actions, while it seems very simple on paper, depending on the terrain, the situation at hand, what kind of problems are present, right? The factions, it's all going to change that into a dynamic experience every single time you play. Because players could have totally had the option and decided, hey, you know, for this round, we're going to try sweeping through here first, and that would create a completely different set of problems in that area. Now you change up the teams because we have different factions, like the Russian PMCs, the Ranger Regiment for the US, and the Al-Salam Insurgent faction, and you have a near infinite replayability. As far as respawns work, respawns are limited to every player. Every player is allotted a certain amount of lives. For these conventional factions, they're offered 3 lives. Three lives, you die 3 times, you're done. You have to watch helmet cams for the rest of the game, and no one really wants to do that. But that just adds so much tension to all these maneuvers into the zone, because the enemy can be anywhere. Then respawn, as far as respawns work, we're working on a, once again, closed alpha. A lot of stuff that we still have to do, fix, implement. But currently it's a leadership reconstitution mechanic. What that means is that so long as your squad leader or fire team leaders are out of contact, you are able to spawn on them if they're close to someone else. And so what that does is you even see contact, or you even see elements break contact, right? Or move backwards, because that is important. You can do that in order to secure spawns or to ensure that you are not overrun. Because if you are overrun and your leadership goes down and everyone's dead, you have to walk all the way back in. And that is not great because you lose pressure on the board, your elements out there in the open. And we can see here, Rangers are now making that movement closer up to that road, looking to cross at this time.
Yeah, and you know, very slow, very methodical gameplay right now. As I was mentioning before, right? It's gonna be very interesting to see if some of the players, you know, apply some of the lessons they've learned throughout the weekend. You know, like probably it's worth it to play more as a platoon, even though that slows us down dramatically as opposed to, you know, individual elements. Or you know, do we just want to like try the aggression that we saw last round? You know, earlier today when the Russian side completely just went ham, essentially. You know, and so it's very interesting so far, just seeing, you know, the change of pace from the few first rounds that we've seen up until now, where like players are really slowed down tremendously at the
Yeah.
start of the game.
And going back to those realistic tactics, right? Just because of the conditions that are set and the feelings that those players are feeling on the ground, you're seeing like proper crossings here on the LDA, proper security. You're seeing bounds happen within fire teams, right? And you know, that's not because, oh, they're LARPing or they're role playing, right? That's just because it is effective. Once you know things pop off, you have limited lives. You want to make sure that you aren't caught with your pants down. You want to make sure that that first engagement that happens, you're in the best position to do that. And just naturally, because of that, players use these tactics, right? It's very cool to see that without any, you know, really major nudging, and with a whole bunch of people from random backgrounds playing, you know, for the first time together, that they're executing these maneuvers at the platoon or squad level. We had some analytics as we looked at the performance over the last couple days here. At least 40% of players this weekend are brand new. They just hopped in. This is their first weekend of Bellum. But you can even see there that like there's a substantial amount of pressure from all the current surrounding design systems to make players play like this. And while it might seem slow up top, right, we have knowledge of where all the elements are, and we can kind of see where everything's placed, right? In the minds of these players on the ground, the world that they see is very much smaller. This is all they kind of see and know. The enemy can be anywhere, right? And so making these cautious movements, moving with bounds, moving with security, making sure we have 360 security, right? Making sure we're spread out enough that we can react. These are all things that they feel like they need to do in order to be effective, and that's why they do them. So it looks like we are going to end up having first contact here happen momentarily. The Satyr element is kind of more spread out than the Rangers. The Rangers are kind of more solidified. Now this can work once again for or against the Ranger team, right? The Rangers identify like, okay, small element to the front, then they can blow through and kind of destroy it. But if they take too long, right, they allow the remaining Satyr elements to kind of maneuver in a position on the flanks, it can end up looking gnarly. So even that kind of mechanic, right, that small differential of numbers adds in a whole nother puzzle, another problem that these players have to figure out. And just with the information that you need to gather and the information that's on hand, that the terrain around you, like there's so many combat decisions that need to be made, that's really the meat and potatoes of the experience. And it does look like we have first contact going out. It sounds like Satyr is engaging with this skirmish element. This is 1-4 Satyr up front.
Yeah, naturally, as we have first contact here, I think both teams are gonna start to like try to disseminate some of the information coming down the line, you know, from the people at the front and as well as the people at the rear, just trying to figure out like, you know, the size of the force we're engaging, seeing if we can, you know, exploit this opportunity to make a flanking maneuver, which does seem like it's coming down on the flank here with 1-2. Try to get aggressive on the side here, going for a squad attack essentially.
But yeah, we're seeing that skirmish line kind of get overwhelmed here. Rangers are now pushing in. I think they realize they have the upper hand and they're trying to commit to destroy this small force. Little do they know though, right? They have no idea that there's a full squad moving on the flank and additional supporting elements coming up from the rear. So there's a good chance that Satyr will be in a good position here to kind of fix, once again, we talked about fixing earlier, fix the Ranger platoon in position here. And if they can sneak around the flank and kind of get a multi-front going, it could look pretty dangerous for the Rangers. So we're going to see how these matches and this kind of battle plays out. That's always a dice roll in these matches. You never know what's going to happen. But it does look like Satyr's in a good position. Rangers trying to get a right flank going, but they're kind of pinned against this road and against the shoulder of the road, against the hill here. And it's going to show up on 1-3 Satyr side. They're going to be very easy targets because of that position. And this could be pretty devastating for 1-2 Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we see 1-3 from Satyr and even 1-2 walk directly on top of the Ranger squad, it becomes very clear that the ones being set up in an L are instead the Rangers as opposed to the Rangers setting up the Russians.
Yeah, and now Rangers are in a super tough spot, caught in a position where they can very easily be seen and engaged from on the right flank. Casualties already starting to mount on this hill here. And once again, we talked about those puzzles, those objectives. What is the combat call here? What is the decision these fire team leaders and squad leaders are going to make? And that really is the meat and potatoes of the fight. Remember, they can go front, they can go backwards. There's full tactical freedom because the objective is simply to kill and not be killed. And we're gonna see if Satyr can continue pushing this advantage. They are now spotted and compromised on that right flank. We see 1-3 Rangers addressing the threat on the right, suppressing. RPGs going off on the main body on the left flank. But Satyr's doing a decent job here, all things considered, especially with the fact that we still have a whole other team from Satyr not committed yet. So we're just going to have to see how this battle kind of develops. It's unpredictable at this point. Satyr, while they did have a good position here to engage these guys, this is still sparse cover and concealment. There isn't too much. Yeah, there's still some casualties here on the Satyr side. It's not the best position to engage from. They had a good angle on that 1-2 element up front, but it looks like that left flank now heating up.
Yeah, and with the squad so close to each other, you know, it really, most of it's gonna come down to who has fire superiority over this match. You know, whichever squad's able to put down more fire and really allow the rest of the element to really move into the kill zone is really gonna determine
yeah, both
who
teams
wins this fight.
Both teams really just fighting for initiative right now. That's why we kind of see the lines being drawn so much so. And both teams, there's no clear winner on the fire superiority yet. There's no real movement that can happen yet. Just once again, because of that terrain that is present. Even the small micro terrain here, we can almost see this small tiny road here. This dirt path is proving to be an issue in drawing a line between the two elements as well. So all these tiny pieces of terrain really do matter in Bellum. All those small details and decisions really do shine, because that's what matters is what's right in front of you. What are you dealing with immediately? Not this macro game mode that you have to kind of meta game, or macro mechanics that you have to min-max. You're just really looking at the fight in front of you and how do you win the immediate fight in front of you.
I said you got one in front of you about 15-20 meters moving in the bushes a little bit to your left.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does look like, sound like from comms in the ground that they're all aware that the Rangers are essentially surrounded at this, well, not surrounded, but getting close in at this point.
Yeah, more RPGs on this left flank.
So yeah, very methodical assault from the Satyr side, you know, putting pressure where it's supposed to go and not rushing to their deaths, you know, just taking it slow, just taking rounds down, making sure that the enemies come down and suppress before they actually move in. We still have this entire Satyr element on their rear, just how confident they are on their assault right now.
Yeah, and I think we are starting to see Satyr take a little bit more control of this fight. You can see Rangers are trying to attend to their mass cows, and like we mentioned before, mass cows, these casualties become mini objectives, right? People don't give up in this experience because they want to keep their lives. This means that when you suffer casualties, we do need to render aid to these casualties. So these two areas you can see right here are clustered. These are mainly where they're consolidating casualties and trying to treat them. Satyr kind of, this right flank becoming ineffective. We're seeing this Ranger try to squeeze in on this right, but we're also seeing them cede ground on this left because this 1-1 Bravo element is slowly working the flank here. And Rangers, I think it looks like they're going to attempt to break out on the right where they feel the least amount of pressure. And it looks like this 1-3 Satyr, they might have the table turn against them here. If this 1-2 element can rally and get aggressive enough, they do have a chance to kind of destroy this element in the open. Just not enough cover and concealment.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we see these maneuvers from the Ranger squad, it really begs the question, you know, what's the thought process for still keeping one element on the rear for Satyr? However, as I say that, did that same element starts to move up to the line?
Yeah, we do see that force, that reserve force finally committed. They're holding them back. And then we did also see morale completely break here for the remaining element on this right flank. Satyr overrun on the right, could not hold back this Ranger assault. And sometimes that's what you need to do in response to an ambush or an engaging position, is to just destroy it with absolute violence and speed. And it looks like that's what 1-2 is doing after they were able to kind of recollect themselves. It's going to be curious to see, however, they're now splitting further and further from the main force. There's the opportunity for the remaining of these elements to push in from Satyr and kind of engage this platoon in isolation now. We kind of zoom in, it's going to get loud. We'll see the effects on the ground here. Just relentless RPG fire on the left, taking down Tree Factory, I believe, right there. You see on the ground the picture that these guys have. It's a very small picture. That fog of war is very real. It's very scary. The suppression in combination with the effect that you have a limited life is authentic.
Viper, stay the fuck with me. Yeah, come on. I am.
Yeah, and that element on the right, you know, completely wiped out that Satyr element. So it, you know, we could see a turnaround from the Ranger side, you know, now completely encircling them, the Russian force here momentarily.
Yep, it does indeed look like this force is attempting to make this right side flank, that reserve force, committed. And Rangers now on the back foot, despite having a win on this flank. That additional Satyr force committed might just be enough bodies to break this flank here. The effect of those rockets. It's basically rockets and explosives for Satyr and machine gun power for the Rangers. Satyr being very controlled with the aggression. That's what we like to see. They just have to kind of make sure that they're continuing pressure here before this element folds back in, because currently there is a numbers advantage for the Rangers. Right, with that right squad destroyed, it is now a 2-on-3 engagement, right? If Rangers here, Ranger squad here, 3 Ranger squads. and only 2 Satyr squads on the board. So things could turn really quickly against Satyr as this 1-2 Ranger element folds back in.
Right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we see, Rangers taking it very slow, very methodical, trying to tend to their casualties on the rear, where they know that they're not in danger or like direct danger of confrontation.
Listening to me, or they can't fucking hear me on the radio.
Yeah, Rangers deciding to break contact.
You can hear me fine on our channel. Could be circumstances or something, I don't know. Gotta be more settings to check here.
Yeah, Rangers now breaking despite having a numerical advantage. Thermobaric going off right there. Does not manage to hit anybody. But Satyr definitely feels emboldened. This 1-2 team needs to get into the fight. Because 1-4 and 1-1 here getting chewed up. They're getting outmaneuvered now on the left by Satyr as these elements attempt to pull out. So 1-2 trying to get in the fight. And when they get into the fight, it is possible that they can turn this a little bit of a lull here in this engagement.
Yeah, and not really displayed from your POV, but yeah, there's a lot of Rangers pulling back casualties as far as they're able to, and some of them going down even in the process of breaking contact, just in an effort to actually, gain some better ground, some more advantageous positions to engage this enemy contact in front of them.
Yeah, and we can see here 1-2 finally putting some fire out, fixing this Satyr element in place, preventing them from moving. This element still has some ability to push forward, but it seems like both teams are kind of cautiously now adapting to the situation. We see the fight now turning east to west instead of north to south here, and these kind of dynamic fights are what we're kind of talking about, right? Like, you never know what direction or what flavor of an engagement you're going to get, as it continually is determined by the other team. Continually the enemy team makes a movement, you have to counter respond, and it's just kind of an endless play counterplay kind of experience that really makes every firefight feel different.
We still see a lot of fire being put out by Satyr into the Ranger positions, even though the Rangers are responding with an equal, if not superior amount of fire, with those 240 going off right now.
Yeah, and we can even see this road that was so hard to cross early on is now proving to be a difficult or dangerous obstacle to now cross back to. And like, this is going to potentially, if they can close the gap here, Satyr can catch these Rangers against the road. And like, every single decision matters. Decision to use this road across at this certain point could end up being, beneficial or detrimental to the element. Looks like we're now finally seeing that Ranger element decide, okay, now's the time to push across. And it's coming at the perfect time. We can see Satyr getting emboldened at the exact same moment as well. They might miss this opportunity. And if Rangers can pull back across the road here, they can kind of use the road defensively, but they have to move fast. They have to get across this road quickly before they're caught, and it does look like they are going to be able to slip in between. Yep,
yeah,
Rangers.
absolutely. And very curious, we don't really see many smokes being popped by the Rangers. Master move now, make it easier for them to actually break contact here.
Unless that's fucking 1-3 shooting at me.
Yeah, Rangers now back across the road in a good position. It's going to be hard for any of the Satyr elements to push across in trail and follow. So they can kind of reposition at this point.
Yeah, and from that position, they can easily be reinforced by the influx of, redeploys coming from their main right now.
Yeah, there's
So
initial
definitely
casualties coming back in now.
set up for success right now. If they can play their cards right, they can get those 240s down and just putting down rounds down in the tree line. We can definitely see the tables turn in the next few moments here.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to say who made it out with the most gains on this first engagement. Despite Satyr having a super good position and being very aggressive and being able to push Rangers out of the tree line, they did lose a squad as that happened. They had to sacrifice this element to gain ground on the right. But Rangers also, we see casualties from the Ranger element both here and coming back in. It could be, a 1-to-1 exchange currently with this battle. It's still pretty evenly matched, despite having a positional advantage. I don't think Stater has a manpower or attrition advantage at this current point, and so this game's gonna develop even further and won't be determined just based off of this one engagement. Some more casualties as Rangers are egressing.
Yeah, you still see them, you know, probably give up some ground for even a more advantageous position. And at this point, they also probably realize that the enemy also has, you know, part of the element that was wiped on the way back to the AO already. So I'm curious to see, you know, if they keep breaking contact even farther, or if they're just, you know, setting themselves up for success in a more advantageous position for those 240s.
Yeah, it does look like we are seeing Rangers kind of move out further to the north, probably looking for an additional crossing area, or maybe just to break contact completely and try to pick, as you mentioned, a new fight on better terms. There's still a couple Rangers down here on the south. It is a very dangerous position, right? We always talk about how lone wolves, they play a very risky game in Bellum. Yes, you can always try and do some sneaky work on the side, but hey, if you're caught out, right, like you can kind of see how much elements stick together. You might drop a single person or two, but once the element turns on you, it could put you in a really rough spot. You could end up losing your life, and you know, because of the medical system, these guys will pick up their casualties. So using kind of lone wolf tactics or individual tactics, it is risky, it is difficult, it generally does not work out. However, there are definitely times and places where, you know, especially as the Al Zalam faction, where they want to hit on multiple fronts, they want to feel bigger than they actually are, they want to spread out and kind of attack from all angles. You'll definitely see those kind of tactics where, you know, fire teams or buddy teams are splitting up, hit and run tactics on the side, very effective against conventional forces like these Satyr PMCs or the Russian or the Rangers, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we still see some shots being fired from team to team as the Rangers continue to break contact and try to pick up some of those casualties. And we see them actually, you know, try to go back, make sure we're not wasting any lives, or we're keeping as much manpower as we're able to. Definitely a risky play from them, considering the entire Russian team is just looking down that whole general direction. But you know, as this happens, the rest of the team is trying to break on the other side of the tree line right now, probably trying to go for a linear assault, if I had to make a guess. Not sure how that's going to play out for them, considering, you know, the tree line is completely occupied at this time. But we'll have to see in the next few moments here what actually develops and what turns out to be true for the Ranger squad.
Yeah, it looks like they are choosing to try to cross further back, try to get some more purchase on this side of the road, and see if they can continue an engagement. It's going to be interesting to see how that repositioning works out. A couple Rangers here, I think, still alive, hiding in the brush, but there's just so many Russians moving around that, yep, we're about to see what happens here as soon as these guys engage. They're now searching for these two scouts here. It's very hard to be effective as a lone wolf or a small element because of how much teams stick together. Rascal already going down here. I think that was a really good grenade on top of K-Bot as well. And that Ranger hat team is probably going to get mopped up. But Rangers opting to kind of play to the open terrain here. They're moving actually past this tree line. I'm curious to see if they're planning on just moving in at range here and engaging at distance, or if they're going to move to this flank as well. Once again, because of the way the game mode is set up, they have full tactical freedom to execute whatever maneuvers they want in order to put themselves in the best position. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see here. And just as a reminder, ammo consumption, right? Ammo is not unlimited. So that's like the next level of thinking to think about here. There are some basic cross-loading and magazine sharing mechanics. But expenditure of ammo is a real thing, right? In order to resupply, you have to go back to the main base. And that means like forcing the enemy to spend their ammunition, right? That is very much a real tactic, right? If you can bait the enemy into using up all of their expensive, you know, really cool special munitions like the Goose hat rounds or the thermobaric rounds, right? Or even just ammo, right? Bullets. you can end up pushing the enemy team into a weird position where they need to resupply, take a platoon or a squad off the board, and thus create an opportunity for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I miss I miss part of your comms there, but you know, as I was watching the rest of the hat team get picked up there. But yeah, we start seeing some of the Rangers finally try to make a move out of that open area. You know, and by the looks of it, trying to break contact to the rest of the platoon right now. Simultaneously, as this happens, we see the rest of the Russian stragglers make it back to the tree line and get relocated with their squads. So yeah, it does seem like we're past the first initial big fight for the session. You know, from here on out, based on just statistics at this point, we're gonna see a couple more skirmishes here and there between smaller elements until that inevitably leads up to a larger like platoon confrontation for a second larger engagement of the game.
Yeah, as you mentioned, right? Like the flow of every match, it's different. Like when that first engagement happens, what happens as a result of it, and in this particular situation, right? It looks like that first engagement, we finally have a clean break. Both teams kind of licking their wounds, kind of reorganizing themselves, and figuring out how they're going to continue. But yeah, very interesting things here.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna see a small break here, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how teams develop now that they know where each main body is, and what kind of tricks they can pull out of their sleeve in order to change the engagement to the conditions that they want.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you're seeing a little break here. You know, as every team picks up the last of their casualties and reconsolidates over to a new position, you know, there's got to be some sort of information dissemination process from leadership, right? Like, what are we gonna do? You know, like how are we looking on lives? How are we even looking on ammo for those elements that have really not been able to like traverse out of the AO so far? As we saw with the very first elements that you know were engaged, we've not seen them exit the AO by any means yet. So it's very interesting to see, ammo considerations for Seder. If maybe it's worth to completely give up the ground and see if we can go for a resupply run over at main, or maybe we can crossload some of the magazines from other spots. Very interesting to see the decisions that are going to be taken here in the next few minutes, so that we can lead to the next engagement. But yeah, so far we only see some slight reorganization from both teams, trying to pick up some ground back up, set up in some different defensive positions, especially those 240s from what we can see, setting up in some very key strategic
in this tree line.
positions, right? Like locking those sectors of fire down in the tree line. But so far we're only seeing slight movements from the Seder team getting back on the edge of the tree line, regaining a previous position. So if I had to make a guess, based on both teams' decisions right now, I would say that we're gonna be seeing some sort of engagement here in the center ground of this area here by the pond.
Yeah, it looks like Rangers are now sending a couple elements back to resupply. And once again, like ammo consumption, if you have to think about everything you do in this game, if you overspend your ammunition and in instances where it's not necessarily called for, you're gonna see that you have to come off the board. And by coming off the board, right, you're leaving a numbers advantage on the board. So this game even rewards proper usage and consumption of ammunition at the right times. Don't just go mag dumping into the wind because it feels good. Because like you will have to make that walk back, you will have to resupply, and in doing so you could miss the fight. And if enemy forces can identify that weakness, it could be pretty detrimental to the platoon. So that's 100% just another thing that players have to learn. It is not something that is usually really heavily leaned on in other experiences. Yeah, every move you take, every shot you fire, it all really does build into the experience of that one match. But yeah, things are gonna
Yeah.
be pretty slow here as these elements kind of regroup. But just a reminder, these guys are pretty locked in. They're paying attention just because they have limited lives. The danger could be anywhere. So you'll see them start holding security. That's why you don't see too many ballsy plays. You even see from the Satyr side, they're holding great front and left flank security. They're kind of feeling a little bit confident because they came through this area on the right. And Rangers as well spread up. They have a front, left, and right flank kind of guard going on with this setup.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are gonna see some downtime here as the squads, pick their breath back up. Essentially, we mentioned this before in the prior stream, but the adrenaline of like hitting contact, especially with limited lives, and the morale implied on it, after that
When we
adrenaline
make this,
drains, like
we need to
you
make sure
really have to
everyone
pick
moves
your
slow and
breath back
slow.
up and
Don't
just
go any higher than
take
a
a step back for a
crouch,
second and,
and stay
as I mentioned before,
as
disseminate all
much
the
in
information that
cover
just
as
came through,
possible
and make sure
during
you're
concealment.
taking
So if they're
as
trying to
much
move
an
around and
informed
look, they're
decision
not
for
going
the
to see
future
us.
as you're able to. And we do see that happen with the Ranger team. At least, we are aware that the enemy is in that tree line. We are being very careful with our advance. We're keeping, you know, everyone in close vicinity so we can react to contact, accordingly. If any of my frontline elements hit contact here, I can very easily shift a squad or two to really support them and take advantage of the fight. But yeah, playing very slow, playing not scared. I don't want to say scared, but
Cautious.
cautious for sure is the right word. Now that we have that information and that we're able to sustain ourselves in this area, then begs the question, like, are we gonna start pushing, or do we just want to lure them into us? Which, considering the current setup, I don't think would be a half bad idea. Let the enemy push into the open area with those 240s would definitely be a very interesting decision for the Rangers' sake.
Yeah, Rangers kind of. This is a kind of a questionable tactical decision here, pushing into these open fields instead of going like maybe further around. Because remember, they have the freedom and time to do so. The Satyr platoon is in position in cover and concealment of this forest. That this might work out if Rangers can move fast enough through these villages and get in. There might be an option there, but pushing straight in like this could end with some pretty devastating results. We can see that these guys are taking their time to kind of creep through this brush, and it is once again very dense on the ground. That picture that you get is a very small one. We are very blessed with this admin cam to have full tactical knowledge and positioning of every element, but they have to figure out that picture on the ground and work that puzzle, and that's like their brains are just working overtime right now in order to do so.
Yeah, and it does seem like the Russian team sends out some scouts to that little that little elevation side. Being very careful not to expose themselves, showing military crests over the hill. Just making sure they can obtain any type of information at this point. And as the rest of the squad gets in line, I'm very curious to see, if they have confirmation that there's anyone in front of them, or if they're only guessing at this point.
Yeah, they're set up. Satyr's set up as good as it can possibly get in preparation for this next assault. I'm very curious to see once again if they spotted the Ranger element or if they're just doing this kind of proactively. But this seems pretty deliberate. I think someone did get spotted out there in that field. And Satyr is in a position, I think they're waiting for the go call, waiting for the opportunity to engage. And it's going to be hard for any of these elements on Ranger to maneuver, just open fields. So once again, these talk about these small terrain features that turn into massive problems. This road over here, this road on the right. These Rangers, the only real path they have is going to be back out. I don't even think a frontal is going to be possible because of this field. We can zoom in here and see if that's just an LOD thing on our end, or if this field really is flat. No, this field is empty. So
as you say that, I'm just running around or flying around, getting some comms from those dudes, and they both see each other on those tree lines. I think they don't realize it yet, but they're both setting up for the exact same thing at this time. The contact reports from both teams go out for that element in the farmland and that element in the tree line. So it's going to be interesting to see how they disseminate that information and take a tactical decision in the next few minutes here.
Yeah,
We do have.
it's crazy. Once again, these are public players. These are players that have never really played together before. You can, of course, see a couple groups, right? Some tagged individuals. But for the vast majority of players, they've never played together. And like even now, this weekend, for at least 40% of the players were brand new to the experience. So this is not like some hardcore milsim clan of 50 people going up against the another hardcore trained clan. These are literally just players that are working the problem together. And we've really put in a lot of time and effort to make sure that you get that sense of this is my platoon, this is the platoon to work with in the moment, and we just have to figure it out because we're in this together. That's kind of the mindset from the player's perspective, because that's all there is really to do once you get dropped on the map, is to work with the team in order to find, fix, and finish the enemy.
Good copy. We are skirting north to try to get a good.
We see 1-2 Satyr here making aggressive movement on that left flank in order to try to get in position to engage. And Rangers are just committing more and more forces to that open field. I'm very interested to see how this is going to go. We still have that remaining team coming in off resupply. But there is a big opportunity here for Satyr, both on a numbers point and just a positional point, to really kick the Hornets' nest. And
Yeah, absolutely.
like,
And I don't know if you see this, but there's this little remainder of the weapon squad
Oh,
just
here we go.
intertwined with. Oh, and we have contact. Yep.
yeah, and that weapon squad, like you mentioned, just caught right dead in the middle of it. What an engagement, opening up all at once. And we say that a lot in Bellum, is that like these engagements erupt, right? It's not like individual firefights. You have the platoons engaging with massed fires.
Yeah, and you know this this little remainder of 1-4 does definitely have the chance to like make serious damage to the right side of the lane here. You know, just letting that 240 rip essentially into a tree line could definitely suppress the enemy, not allow them to advance into the remainder of the Ranger platoon here.
Yeah, they have not been like compromised, I don't think. It looks like they are still playing from concealment there. No one knows that they're in between the line. But the main Ranger element, like we mentioned before, this field has them trapped. The only way out is going to be to the northwest, but it's open terrain all around, kind of moving themselves into a really tough position to fight from. The only saving grace, right, is that we have a Ranger element now coming in off that rear. If they're able to affect enough casualties on that flank, it could turn the tides to a slight degree, but I don't think we're going to see any possible aggressive movement from this field here. Yeah, PKM still suppressing and raking that field.
And we don't really have that many casualties at this time, even though both teams seem to be taking a lot of fire. It does seem like it's vastly contributing to suppression right now and denying the enemy.
Yeah, these guys are just kind of hunkering down. We have maybe 1 or 2 casualties from Rangers here, but they are this is, if there's ever a moment in Bellum where I've seen a squad get pinned down, this is it right here. This is a Ranger squad being pinned down. It's going to be interesting to see. Once again, 1-2 coming up off that resupply. They could turn the tide. It is entirely possible. They're opening up on that 1-3 Alpha Senior Grenadier. Can flank security for the Rangers react? Are we paying attention, or are we tunnel visioned, right? If we're tunnel vision, this could end up flipping things quite substantially. Just to paint the picture, we have a Ranger squad here, Ranger squad here, Ranger squad here, Satyr squad here, Satyr squad here, Satyr squad here. So we're gonna get intermixed. It's gonna get dirty here in a second. 1-2 does seem like they're reacting to some degree southbound, but this fight's gonna get pretty gnarly. 4x fire now being engaged from the rear as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but we do have a 240 perfectly positioned to suppress that enemy hill on that little brick house to the right of your screen. Perfectly set up here, really much on the right there,
in the field,
right there.
yeah. 1-2 Rangers really doing a lot of work here to push in on the flank. Satyr has to react in time, but I think there's a significant amount of casualties down here for Satyr. elements are now intermixed. I think 1-3 here can do a good job locking down both squads with only a single Satyr squad, and in doing so free up the rest of the elements to engage. But they have to react. They have to move on this. But it looks like some Satyr elements are breaking. Some confusion in the line right now.
We do have a moment of quiet here.
Yeah. Is there casualties? Is there Mascal here? To a degree. To a degree, there's a Mascal on the hill. Yeah.
Oh, yep.
The main fight now in this tree line.
And you know, that same 1-4 component that was stuck before has now moved up a little. And still alive, you know, putting down, rounds into the tree line again. So very interesting to see if they can, you know, just lock down the rest of the team from really accessing or reaching their casualties on the far edge.
Yeah, this machine gun team right here just absolutely locking down Forest to a degree. And Rangers playing it super sustained, super controlled. 1-2 coming in and really flipping the fight here. And Satyr now on the back foot. That is incredible. I did not anticipate such a flip here. It really goes to show how important it is to not get tunnel visioned, right? While the main fight was here, this is why reconnaissance is important. This is why intelligence is important. Just knowing that there's only 2 squads here, right? Where's the 3rd Ranger squad, right? And that 3rd Ranger squad was not necessarily given the respect it deserved. We did not have flank security up, and they were able to push in on the flank, demolish 1-2 here, and then also just somehow, some way inflict a mass cal on the 1-1 position here on this hill. So really now, Satyr kind of discombobulated. A significant amount of the force is no longer on map. And they're going to have to figure out, now they have to reset the fight. How are they going to address the remainder of this match?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they essentially recover from this, because you know, it is very interesting because we still saw one entire Satyr element just being kept in reserve instead of being used effectively to maneuver around or just, you know, suppress the enemy force. So very curious what the thought process has been so far to like not employ the entire of the platoon in this, you know, platoon level tactics.
Yeah, Rangers now feel aggressive enough to start moving up. Rangers feeling emboldened. You can see the morale raising, going on the offensive. You can feel that on the ground when you're playing the firefight, the tempo, the vibe of the engagement. And Rangers are feeling, we're winning, press the advantage. And you're seeing aggressive movements both on the left flank, on the center, and on the right. They've managed to completely turn this game around. It's quite incredible. And we talked about those mini objectives earlier. This 1-2 element, despite killing the Russians here, they ended up getting mass killed. And now this is an objective for this coming in infantry squad to rescue these guys. So these dynamic objectives and situations are happening all over the map as we play. Looks like 1-1 Satyr is going to try to decisively engage the element here because they can hear it. They know that there's casualties there. They might be able to snowball something. But we're seeing a full squad have to come in on reconstitution off the main base for Satyr. So Rangers have a numerical advantage on board. How they translate that and how they continue pushing it kind of remains to be seen at this point. Damned Hobbit hiding right in the middle. Still causing a substantial amount of casualties. I think finally getting spotted here. Or we might just be shooting into the bush. Rascal misses every shot into the bush. Yeah, they're just kind of trying to find this guy in the field here. And this is, once again, we talked about formations and getting online and sweeping through together. It's so vital.
They're all dead. There's probably like 2 guys uncon right now.
Yeah, you never want to be clearing a force by yourself. It's just asking to get one tapped or eliminated alone. You always want to be clearing these guys out with a team, so that when you go down, you can kind of see what killed you. And Hobbit finally goes down from that spray. And even small machine gun strategies and tactics and techniques are important here, right? Like grazing fire, right? You never really hear about grazing fire in other first-person shooter experiences. It's not useful, but here, right, the conditions are so authentic, so realistic that grazing fire from machine gunners can really do damage, and that is the most effective way to utilize that weapon system. All those tiny little nuances of real-world combat and techniques and procedures, they're all at play in this experience. They're all effective in this experience. You don't have to use them, but if you learn them and employ them and you work together with your team, you will have a lot of success. That's how these matches are won, is based off of the cohesion, the coordination, and the techniques that platoons employ, not necessarily by having just one or two players really pop off and drop insane KDAs or seeing guys meta game mechanics and whatnot. It comes down to that firefight, and that firefight is really just filled with all those tactics and just absolute teamwork that we're striving for in the genre.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, as Rangers realizing now that they have the complete numerical advantage at this point, we're starting to see some of the sorry, as I completely lost my thought there, as Russians realize that they're completely outnumbered by the Ranger component. Probably realizing that they have to make some desperate move to either get their casualties out or just route themselves out of the AO so they don't, you know, keep stacking bodies on the problem. So very interested to see what this 1-1 component that was essentially on the rear this whole time gonna be doing, you know, and in response to all the casualties around them.
Yeah, definitely a massive Ranger advantage here. Of course, we do see Rangers attending to their Moscow, kind of recovering from that engagement here a little bit. Definitely still some losses on the Ranger side, just unable to save some of these guys in time. We can see these bodies here. So a pretty bloody fight in this tree line, but I think in general, Rangers definitely came out ahead in that engagement. We have a remaining Satyr force here trying to engage. And Red Dog kind of caught in a weird spot, intermixed in the line. Be interesting to see if he's able to do any damage here, but there's a lot of Rangers surrounding him. And now the main Ranger force looks like they are organizing another assault. They have to be careful, though. You still cannot, just because you have a numbers advantage, throw it into the wind. And we see here, entrenched position, Rangers moving all up as one. This is devastating.
Yeah, this gun team really approach that building. Really gonna be interesting to see if they try to knock out that bunker, essentially, you know, like get some grenades in there or something.
You still have to be careful, though, despite having a numerical advantage. You know, it is very easy. It's very delicate to throw the match away just because you start running because you're a little bit too aggressive. You move into something that maybe you shouldn't. And it does look like there's a little bit of a disconnect here with this element on the left flank, not necessarily getting to the fight quite yet. They might end up even, once again, a dynamic instance, have a meeting engagement on this flank on the far left of the screen here. But yeah, it's this battle has been insanity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Don't worry about this. Bye, brother. I like it so it's happening.
Yeah. You're along for the ride now.
You know, we still have remaining Russians in those buildings, you know, and that surrounding tree line. It's gonna be interesting to see if they're willing to fight this this Ranger squad. It does look like that medic is gonna unfortunately get caught up maybe in the fire as he tries to tend to the wounded here, but very interesting development so far.
You have to leave 7 links on the belt for you to be
Yeah,
able
this
to link up more ammo
once
to
again,
it.
we do have dragging. It is possible to drag these
Give me a
guys.
belt. I can't give you a belt. We can only link as team leader.
But yeah, things we're catching another lull here. A little bit of a skirmish here. But Satyr might end up coming in behind this Ranger element that's finally moving in to kind of clean up. This could turn into a problem all of its own over here.
Just get on me.
Oh, and we have some more fire over here on the tree line, just getting, you know, wiping out that last remainder of the Russian element.
Yeah, this bunker fight, this little building has been an objective for this Ranger company for like 20 to 30 minutes.
Fortunately, though, the weapons squad gets mask out on that little bump of trees here. It's very unfortunate to see, just holding position just to get mask out like that.
What hit these guys? PKM again from the window?
I think I PKM. Yeah, I think the PKM.
Yeah, and you can just see, like, we talk about having no objectives, right? This is this team's objective right now. This is the problem that they're trying to work right now, is this one building, and they have the time and space to try to handle it. On the flank here, though, we had a meeting engagement of this reinforcing element. Looks like the Satyr element was caught unawares, crossing the open and taking casualties. Now they're trying to break back. Some aggressive movement here. This is going to turn into a whole nother thing that's going to develop into a larger fight, I do believe. But we still have another skirmish in the tree line as well. It's chaos all around the map right now. And that's what we love to see, right? You can never tell what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen in a round. You really don't. And in this round, like, we had the main engagement here in the forest. We had some skirmishes, another major engagement here. Now we're seeing skirmishes all around the map. You're really giving every match a really unique flavor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be chaos here for a little bit as both platoons kind of reorganize themselves to a degree. Seeing Rangers having to go back to rearm as well. You see that indirect firepower of the Satyr element with the GM94 and GP25s going into play here a little bit, pushing the Rangers back. And Satyr's actually going to be able to make some territorial gains here on that right flank, forcing the Ranger element into the woods. And it's looking interesting here.
Please tell me why the fuck they would say they're coming with us to flank and then just sit at the bottom of the hill and not push.
I think that would be morale. I think that would be fear. I think that might be, you know, the imperfectness of combat.
I took out one.
And we have this Ranger element getting together to really finally knock out this little bunker that they set off.
This one building has been giving Rangers so much grief. This PKM gunner is going crazy.
and you know, as they continue pushing in, they probably realize that there's no turning back now. You know, they just gotta press the attack.
Wait, someone just fragged the building. What are we doing here, guys? What is happening? This machine gunner is going insane right now. Finally goes down. Oh my god. What are we? And we can just see how, like, use tactics, guys. Think you have the time and space to work the problem. We can see right there how much that did not. Don't just charge a building with a machine gunner inside of it. That's the last thing we want to do. Use grenade launchers. Use your frag grenades, right?
shot my
That
madness.
was an insane last stand there by that Satyr PKM gunner.
Absolutely. You know that guy's adrenaline is just
That guy will remember that story, right? It's like, dude, I just wiped out 9 of them as they pushed my bill.
I really hope we see a clip of that later in the Discord for sure, but
That guy was going crazy. Yeah, remember guys, bullet penetration is a thing in Bellum. All these buildings, all these walls and fences and whatnot, they are able to be penetrated to certain degrees by certain calibers and weapon systems. The PKM, even at a certain point, I think we saw him just start spraying through the walls, knowing that he could shoot through them, and took out a couple in that exchange just by doing that. So what an outstanding last stand. Moving back here, that first ranger element that we saw in the forest running into 1-1 Satyr here. They're caught now between 1-1 and 1-2. Some good frags here, honestly. This team is now fixed. See if 1-2 can come in here off the flank and tidy this up. And once again, we're seeing the table turn once again to Satyr. This match has just been back and forth.
yeah, absolutely non-stop fighting and then non-stop maneuvering. Really haven't given any team the chance to really breathe and disseminate past that first engagement that we saw. So you just know that at this point in time in the match, this many engagements through, like the morale and the adrenaline have to be all over the place. The teams have greatly benefit from taking a step back and reevaluating their approach to this engagement.
Yeah, and this Ranger fire team is doing their best. They're holding security where they can. Force.
I'm down. 1-2 Bravo squad lead down.
Fuck.
Yeah, very unfortunately, we see just the back and forth between both teams is trying to get some ground or trying to get the numerical advantage over one another over and over and over throughout the match, and just to no avail. Right now we have the numerical advantage for Satyr, but just behind them is the rest of the Ranger platoon. Patiently, picking their guys back up and getting ready to move to the next position. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next minutes here as the entire platoon gets reconnected in the rear.
Yeah, and it is hard there on the ground, right? We even showed for a very small second there the kind of visibility that these groups are working with, right? It's loud, they're getting shot at, they have limited lives, they're freaking out. There's commands being shouted, people are taking casualties and going down. It is very stressful on the ground, and seeing especially 40% once again of new players this weekend, you can imagine it is a little chaotic down there, right? People don't necessarily know how to handle these situations, the strategy or planning that is required. And I think one of the biggest things that we see from these elements is that after the first main engagement, right, you always have a plan, right? But we always say, the plan does not survive contact with the enemy. Once you hit that engagement, you have to be able to adapt. But even past that, once that initial engagement is done, the thing that we see a lot of teams struggle with, right, just because they have to learn it, they have to experience it, is how do we reorganize and prepare for the next engagement? Usually you see squads kind of get really frazzled by that initial fight. And this building becoming an objective now for Satyr.
Yeah, and you see, we were once knocking out the bunker, now we are actually going to be the element that's defending the bunker, although we see that Grenadier kind of bail out, try to get a better position for himself and see if he can hit some GLs.
Yeah, good fragging by Maniacs. It just fell outside the building. Oh my god. This is insanity. Satyr is blowing through this. And they are they're gonna retake the house. house. We'll see if we have another engagement on that house yet again further in the match. But that's what we love about this game mode. Attrition seems super simple on paper. It seems like very standard, but once you get into it, you can just see the stories that are being able to be told over these objectives that the players themselves are coming up with, because it is important terrain, because it is necessary for the fight, and it pushes the line forward. Just having this playground to a degree really does let players tell the story that they want to have, and it makes them feel like they had equity in making that story. It's not like the game forced them into a situation or forced them to fight over a particular area. These are all literally the flavor of the match is determined by the thought process, the commands, and the strategy of the teams. And that's what really makes every round from the player perspective on the ground feel that much different, right? Because you can do almost anything as a platoon here on the map, and we've seen so many cool, unique strategies be utilized. But yeah, it does look like Rangers finally kind of trying to once again regroup themselves. It's always that first main engagement, like, it shocks you. It really does throw a wrench in plans. It can make leadership like kind of fall apart to a degree in certain regards. And just being able to rally, come up with the next plan. It's not over till it's over in this game. There is no like snowball of capture points that exist. There is no snowball objectives that can happen because you lost the first fight. The first fight happens. Yes, you might end up with a manpower disparity. You might end up on the back foot. But depending on how you approach the remainder of this game, you can always turn it back. That's the really cool thing about Bellum's attrition game mode design, is that it's never like, oh, one-sided from the start, and now they have such a massive advantage that we're done. There's always a way to come back. There's always a way that you can utilize a strategy to give yourself an in back to the match. Yeah, Rangers finally rallying.
Yeah, finally, I was just about to say, we start seeing the rally up from the Rangers, the reconstitution in the rear, you know, giving them all some breathing room, really, like, once again, disseminate all that information and move into the next objective. And as we see this happen, you know, simultaneously, we see the Satyr element just, you know, move around the tree line, trying to get some more ground, finish cleaning up that last bunker that they just knocked out, and really try to like come up with new ideas of how they want to like approach this. You know, are they going to stay in that tree line, or are we going to have to maneuver out of it to new terrain? Which, by the looks of Ranger movement right now, it does seem like they're going to try to force Satyr out of that area at this point.
Yeah, so we're gonna be interested to see how Rangers adapt. I think they're completely over that tree line. You know, they can play defensive, they can bait Satyr into them. It might take some time to do, but it is a valid strategy. It might be the right strategy in this particular situation. You know, jungle warfare, fighting that tree line, it is brutal. It is super brutal. But yeah, we're about to see what kind of chapter this platoon is going to write next. Like, where are they going to go? What's the next fight going to be? And from a spectator perspective as well, it's just so much fun watching these, because you don't know how the match is going to go. You don't know where they're going to start the next fight.
Yeah, it is. I just wanted to talk with you about a little plan I'm thinking of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
So I'm just thinking
we're gonna have to see, you know, once again, as you mentioned, what the decisions are to really, like, you know, force Satyr out of that tree line. As you say, you know, we're completely over that place.
We could just dig in.
We've already committed way too many resources. Our manpower and morale are probably low at this time. You know, we are really gonna have to see the decisions that are taken to really make sure that we turn the tides in our favor. You know, like, so far we've only seen Satyr come out successful out of this engagement. So it's gonna be really interesting to see if Rangers can turn around and really force Satyr out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, I definitely think that Rangers are on the back foot here. They don't have an advantage numerically or like in manpower wise. I definitely think that they're going to be playing a little bit more scared. And we'll see how Satyr kind of reacts, because once again, the second you kind of play more defensive and you play kind of scared, that to the other team, it does come off as a read of like, oh, we have them kind of on the ropes, right? And that might even embolden more aggressive behavior, and it does give you intelligence as to like the enemy platoon's disposition and how they're feeling, and how low morale might be. You can really leverage these things in Bellum, forcing really intense engagements in order to, you know, crush that last little bit of hope from the platoon. These are all things that, you know, that you can pick up on, and just speaks to the depth that's available match to match.
You have a shit ton of.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, while we have some downtime here as the squads recompose themselves, I think we can go over some of the questions that are being asked right now.
I've never even been on that side of
What are
the
the
map.
plans for resupply later on in the game?
It's because when you.
So we're gonna announce resupply a little bit later. There's some really cool things that we have planned. It's gonna be a little bit unique compared to other experiences for sure, but it's gonna be similar. It's gonna be authentic. A lot of the game design that you can kind of see in Bellum is based off of real world analogs, or, you know, kind of what the right or real thing is to do, and that's generally how we kind of balance and form the gameplay in Bellum, and kind of what sets our bounds as far as design. So I won't speak to it too much, but it won't be anything gamified or crazy. It will make sense. It will feel real. It'll be immersive as far as how your platoon is resupplying itself or sustaining itself. I think sustainment might be a better word to use, and that might give a better clue as to what the ammo situation will be like in the future. Sustainment is definitely the word that to kind of think about, and that's like the very real thing, right? You aren't getting an unlimited supply of ammunition in the field. You have a very very limited amount of ammunition, and while you might have a lot of it, you still have to think about where it goes, how it's being planted, or how it's being protected, or where it's going to be, so that when your element does run out of ammunition, you can sustain yourselves. So that's kind of the way I'd kind of tell players to wrap their heads around it. Yeah.
You want to wait for.
Yeah. And some of the things we're gonna see, you know, in addition to sustainment, are gonna be a few more additional systems that I know we haven't talked about, but they will probably all relate to one another once we approach that
right there along the rim?
that timeline.
No, that's not mine.
And what server is
I
this
don't know whose
right
that
now?
is. That's not mine.
I'm unsure. Yeah, we generally want to keep it kind of secret, so that like we don't influence play as much as we can, right? We don't want people coming in and like, oh, what server is this, and then joining the server that we're covering and whatnot. So we try to keep that stuff pretty close to the chest here.
Okay, so I'm thinking
for the time being. But we finally see some pretty good planning here. There's a good break.
When we get there,
Platoons are calmed down. This is valuable time. While it might look boring from the air, you know, this is time for Seder, because they've been out there to cross-load magazines or rebalance ammunition, right? That's a mechanic that we recently introduced into the game this weekend. So like after a fight, these guys can like, hey, do you need a mag? I'm low on ammunition, and kind of rebalance ammunition amongst the squads. So that's super important, right? Having that time post-assault or post-engagement to kind of reorganize, reset, reconstitute, and rebalance the ammunition. In addition to just planning, you can hear that planning in the ear right now. Everyone wants a plan. You know, even that dude that isn't in a leadership position, he wants the platoon to have a plan. Because I can guarantee you the first couple times you play Bellum, if you don't have a plan, you feel that. And you're like, wow, we didn't have a plan, we got absolutely destroyed, or like this plan sucked and it was rushed. So there's a lot of emphasis on the planning. People appreciate the planning community-wise, because it prevents them from dying, and dying sucks. Dying sucks in this game because it's a long wait. You have to come back, and you have a limited amount of lives. You don't want to lose those. So it's a really unique cultural thing, I think, in Bellum, as well as once again, public players planning and taking the time to, and the whole platoon doing so, right? You're not seeing lone wolf elements, fire teams, squads, buddy teams moving out because they're bored. Everyone understands, because of the environment on the ground, the perception of the player on the infantry level. They understand the importance of it all, and they respect it to a degree. And so that's why, you know, we can kind of see this kind of gameplay take root, is because these players get it, right? It feels very real to them. They aren't LARPing or pretending. There's a reason for everything, and they understand that. And they're scared. I think Moose goes,
and they're scared. Yeah,
players get scared. Like, this is a very scary game.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, as we've said it a few times already throughout this weekend, you know, when you start reaching those last like 2 lives, maybe even your last life, like we start seeing like the players extremely conservative over their gameplay, and like really taking the time to like reflect and think about what they're gonna do. You know, do I really want to spend my last life on this? You know, on this, or do I want to, go for a different approach? And it's something that becomes more obvious as the match progresses, and as we
Where
start
we
seeing
want
those
gun
teams
team 3
run
and
out
gun
of their
team
last
1,
fights.
who we want them to position with, or what
But
do we
just
want them to do?
real quick here, just because I feel like this was probably a
Two gun
good
teams
question
go
to
with the
ask.
first group.
So
we set up a gun
asking
team
how
that's
about
gonna
expansion
stay
of medical
at that
gameplay?
first RP.
Yeah, medical 2.5 is planned in the future. It's going to include certain things like certain hit effects and negative effects on the body. It's also going to introduce, we have dragging right now. We're working on carrying to a degree, and we'll see if that's going to make it for medical 2.5. But basically, the medical expansion is going to be mostly based off of negative effects that are occurring on the player once they take damage to certain body parts, as well as adding in more concussion negative effects, because there's a lot of that, right? Frags get thrown around, the Carl Gustav's going off, backblast from the RPG, right? These things do really rock your world if they land near you, and we do want that to be a factor in gameplay as well. So that's where the medical is going to be expanded to in the future in this immediate short term. But yeah, one thing I do want to note real fast is, like, while these players do have the time to kind of think about things and come up with a plan, this match is going pretty long. We're at an hour and 30-ish minutes here. There's only 30 minutes left on the clock. It's going to come down to what these teams can do in that time. I'm hopeful that, of course, there's a lot of new players this weekend, that they're aware of the 2-hour timer here, because if they get too static, it could just end up being an end. Stalemate. So we'll see if they're able to, if they're aware of that. Once again, a lot of new players this weekend, so we'll see. But otherwise, yeah, what's the next question there, if there's one?
Just real quick, will there be painkillers, or does the presence cover that?
I think painkillers in the way of the infantryman, like some like very short term painkillers that everyone gets. Not painkillers, but like some combat pills or something like that might be in order, depending on how we continue tuning the pain. That's just something to, once again, passing out is a mechanic in this game. If you're taking too much pain or your pain gets too high, you have the chance to pass out. Just a way to slightly temporarily combat that until you see a medic. That's definitely probably something that can be done, and we'll see eventually. We're finally seeing some movement here as well from the Rangers, but yeah, we aren't planning on any major insane medical or drug expansions for the next couple months here, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just to note out real quick, because someone did mention, imagine a Russian thermobaric tank unloading in this game. Well, you don't have to imagine it, even if it's not true. True 103 millimeter cannon. We do currently have implemented thermobaric rounds for both the. I guess no, it's only the Russians right now, correct?
Correct. Only the Russians have thermobaric rounds.
And they behave as you would expect them from real life. Igniting the air on fire. So very very interesting to see. So far this weekend, how players have learned like employ those munitions, it being like a super scarce resource throughout the match. I believe we only give the teams, or sorry, the gunners one round, like one thermobaric round, right?
Correct. Currently, it's only one thermobaric round per RPG on the Satyr side. Of course, at early alpha things that are subject to change with time. But yeah, it is very powerful. It works, as you mentioned, just like a thermobaric should. Fills an area with gas, whether that's an open area or if you shoot it into a building with multiple corridors, rooms, corners, and whatnot, it will snake its way and spread that gas amongst that area and then ignite. So it's perfect against rooms or structures with multiple corners and additional areas.
Yep, for sure. And I mean, we're pretty much caught up with a few questions that we had. So yeah, as we as we wind down for the weekend here, this being some of our few last rounds, I don't know, what do you think would say have been your greatest takeaways from the weekend so far?
First things first, we just have to sit here and kind of just admire Satyr's discipline here. Public players holding 360 security. Once again, people think this is like scripted, or there's like it's like hardcore players have been playing for years or whatnot. It's insane. Like, yeah, there's some tagged up guys here, but like most of these players are just jammed in this match together. you can kind of see the environment that the game creates, the mindset that it creates, and this team is just doing a super good job holding 360 security. Rangers are starting to make some movement. We'll see how they're able to determine the fight, but Satyr kind of acknowledges that like they're on the upper hand, they have the manpower advantage, and they've had a lot of success fighting in the tree line, and it looks like they want to continue doing so much as they can.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little hit or miss here depending on the next little fight that happens. It might just come down to time, and it's unfortunate, but sometimes that's how it goes. Once again, alpha stuff, there's going to be some things and systems that we put in place to kind of ensure that as we get to the end here, we can kind of force that final battle. That timeline is that measure currently, but right now it is not necessarily very visibly displayed to the player. So, you know, once again, a reason why we're still in closed alpha. There's still work that we have to do, but we're working very fast. We've got a lot of cool things planned for 2026. Closed beta will be that time where we think the servers are ready for 24/7 play. But yeah, there is a reason why we have to run these testing events this way, despite the game looking as good as it is, despite the game feeling as good as it does. We just have more work to do before we're satisfied and prepared and really ready for players to enjoy this 24/7. But yeah, we're gonna kind of watch these Rangers. Once again, everyone's super scared enough to hold 360 security, scared enough to be moving as a platoon on the right flank, trying to scouting out. And this is just like a good learning moment as well that we can do for Satyr here, right? Is like holding a defensive position is great, right? But you don't really need to have the entire team doing so. And so to look at this strategy and how we can kind of improve it slightly, one thing to note is this, we talked about in the morning stream, reconnaissance, right? Reconnaissance is so important. Having a single team, right, a single fire team or a single buddy team go out and try to conduct some reconnaissance is so valuable, right? Because you can maintain this formation with the majority of your body, but just sending one element, maybe two small fire teams or small buddy teams out to recon the area, you can hold this position, maintain the posture you want, while additionally in combination getting insane amount of value identifying where they are or where they are not, right, and adjusting the strategy. And once like you find the enemy position, if you're able to identify it before the enemy team and you're conducting reconnaissance better than they are, like you can then continue to you can then continue to work an additional plan, the next plan, right? Because you have intel to work off of, rather than just kind of sitting and hoping and wishing for a fight to reach you. And same thing on the Ranger side, they're doing a good job being a little bit more aggressive and looking, but same thing, you could send out a couple vanguards, maybe like a buddy team or a single fire team to kind of additionally get more eyes and cover more areas. But once again, it does incur risk, right? These fire teams that are going out to scout, to conduct reconnaissance, they have to be doing so with the intent to only conduct reconnaissance. The last thing you want to do as a scout team is run into the main body, engage, and be destroyed, right? Because you've gained the information, yes, but you've lost some manpower in response. And that's kind of the next level of tactics I think we'll see kind of occur as players continue to get more and more comfortable, just because it is the meta, right? It is the good thing to do for the platoon, is to identify a certain unit to go ahead and do so. Yeah, but we're gonna see here now if these guys can make this one last fighting engagement happen. Very much seeing the inexperience of these two teams here on this match here, just because it's new players, right? A lot of new players this weekend, but once again, just seeing how organized new players can be, very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And worth noting, right, that we are not really the only server currently in the same situation. So yeah, I mean, we see what we were mentioning before, where a lot of these players, you know, they come into the some of the last events with a different mindset. You know, maybe especially the new ones. I want to assume, right? They come in with the experience of the last few matches and are like, oh, you know, maybe I should be more careful about my life, and maybe I should stick to my team and, you know, really analyze what's going on around the match and, you know, make informed decisions in regards to like what I'm doing in the match.
They were saying they were gonna stick with us. I thought they were saying they were gonna stick with us. Heard
Yeah.
It does look like the
Seeing
Ranger
players learn-
side.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
yeah,
online
no,
with
go
this,
ahead.
just
It
carry
does
on
seem like
with it, sorry.
the Ranger side is pushing some people to the far edges of their current formation to see if they can, probe anything. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as you mentioned, the learning aspect of it all, like you can really see players learn fast.
Yeah.
The lessons are hard and they're punishing, and it forces players to learn fast. Players, moving squads in bad positions. We see the exact next fight. They don't do it anymore. You can see them very quickly pick up on lessons of like, ooh, don't be alone, or like, ooh, yeah, let's actually work as a platoon. And it's really cool to see that they're absorbing the information quickly and it's really translating in real time. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm not sure these players are aware of the hour timer. Rangers are trying to get a little bit more aggressive here. Satyr, holding down the fort. And once again, this will also change as we continue to introduce more content, right? Drones alone are going to help the recon fight much more, right? Because you'll be able to more easily recon certain areas and identify enemy positions and formulate your plan better there. Certain tools like claymores, IEDs, mortars, right? These things are going to be things that are pivotal in creating dynamic engagements, because you'll have a way to generate conflict, right? Or initiate a massive engagement, or force players to move to a degree. So yeah, there's a lot of things and content that are still planned that are not in. This is still very early alpha. Just want to remind everyone of that fact, that we aren't even in early access yet, and there are still things that we need to do. But yeah, we're seeing a pretty static gameplay from the Satyr squad, and it's just I'm amazed at their patience.
He's holding it down.
Yeah, I'm amazed at the patience. I really am.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I wonder if they probably
Before you
assume
go
that
first.
they have the upper hand overall in the match.
Sit for
They have
six.
the advantage of manpower, having essentially wiped the Ranger team twice. We could be wondering if
4, send it for 6.
if they're not aware of the draw condition at the end. Just alpha things for sure, but probably what's going on in their heads is like, we do have the advantage, right? Like we have no need to actually push the enemy at this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Especially additional vehicles, right, and everything that comes out in the future. And once again, there's like a lot of interesting tactics that can be utilized, right? Like we've seen even teams like I think what's happening right now even is Rangers are trying to fire in order to provoke the Satyr element out to them, right? There's a lot of fainting fires you can do. There's recon by fire you can do, like all these different techniques and tactics that you really need to just open your mind to, right? I think players are so used to playing a certain way in other experiences that once they're given this kind of sandbox platoon engagement, it takes them a while to realize how to actually utilize that freedom effectively, and how they can come up with like super cool strategies, do a lot of things on the map as a platoon. And it just once again takes time for them to get there. But we're seeing Rangers attempt to goad Satyr into a fight. I don't necessarily think once again, you have to be kind of convincing with your bait as well. I don't think Satyr's going to buy it here. Yeah, we're gonna see how this kind of rolls out, but yeah, it's gonna be first mover here of who makes the next step.
Yeah, I do unfortunately think that this match will most likely, just because of the time, end in a draw, unless we see some sporadic movement like right now from Satyr or Rangers. I do believe that it is unfortunately just gonna be time limited.
Yeah, I do think we're seeing some movement from Satyr's side. We can see some shuffling around here, orienting in the direction of that fire. But just think as well, like the kind of bait tactics you can do with fainting fires. If let's just say the Rangers sent a single fire team right around over here and conducted intentional fainting fires, right? And they had the main body move down here, right? You can, and these guys pulled out after. You could be a ghost in the wind here, and that's like something we've seen the Al Salam faction do quite extensively. Is really run these tricks in order to kind of confuse the enemy force. But we finally do see some movement here. There's maybe 20-ish minutes on the clock. Both elements are now kind of anchoring towards each other, and we're gonna see if they're gonna be able to push. We do see Satyr moving out as a squad here. Looks like a probing element of the main force. And there might be a small engagement here at the tail end on this west to east fight.
Hey, Hoss, have you been trying to anything to me? I haven't been able to hear you over hit music.
And we also start seeing some of the
No, I
Rangers
haven't.
push
Let
out
me
of the
just say,
school
quick
area
grenades and nothing,
in an
'cause
effort
fucking
to,
one dude just
I
said,
guess,
"Fuck it, I'm
also
throwing it out,"
collide
and
with
threw another
the
grenade.
whatever
Yeah, I
at this
love that.
point, you know, just see if they can probe anything out of the tree line.
Why is everyone spreading out that far?
They've decided to say fuck it. I mean, we might as well work with it, right? Give them an objective to fucking work towards.
Yeah, until we get caught out in the open with our pants down again and no one wants to fucking listen and run around and gaggle fuck.
Definitely some frustration.
Yeah, definitely some frustration. But you know, Alpha things, we are aware of the pain points with the experience right now. And you definitely things plan to like address all of this like little issues that rise up, right?
That being said, when he says the element's pretty spread out, in the grand scheme of things, everyone's doing a really good job sticking together.
Yeah,
it's pretty
dude.
funny to hear, honestly, considering like I've played other games where like people are actually spread out. You have like guys hundreds of meters, if not across the map from each other.
Yeah, they're doing a good job
Yeah,
at
these guys are
having
pretty-
some elements in
pretty,
reserve and then like well maintained distance from like the main element.
Yeah, it's
Able to
it's
flex
funny.
accordingly.
It's definitely
Yeah,
funny.
it is funny. It is pretty funny.
These guys are Rangers finally like really working well as a platoon, executing some platoon maneuvers as a group, and sometimes like that is entertaining in and of itself, right? Maneuvering the map
Yep.
as a platoon, patrolling to the best of your ability, right? It is an engaging kind of mindset, especially with the fact that danger is everywhere. You're on your last life, right? These guys are wired at this point in time.
Yeah, they're locked in, dude. Yeah, it's funny that they're so close to one another, yet they just don't know it, you know?
You know, I am a fool. I expect all of you to be intelligent people.
Is that whip?
Yeah, that is our whip.
Yeah, someone's gotta tell this guy it isn't cog. We might get one last skirmish here out of the fight here. Satyr popping off a couple rounds.
Six, you ready? Six, you ready to move?
Ready to die? How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it is a beautiful day.
Ranger sending out a small patrol here. About to walk into a machine gunner. Oh no.
I literally saw him whack.
Look at that, now we're caught out in the fucking open when we could have been sending in security.
It would be very funny if off of those kills, Rangers actually win.
If that's how close it is.
If that's how close it is, it would be hilarious. And we start seeing the Russian squad be like active now.
Yeah, and like we mentioned before, like this is the value of a reconnaissance squad, right? Is that it can generate that next conflict on your terms if that recon squad's doing things properly. Imagine if this was like if this squad had stepped off much earlier and was able to catch the Rangers, you know, in a worse spot, right? You can really dictate the match. But like once again, new players, the amount of tactical depth available that most players aren't used to or have ever experienced before. So it's just a learning curve that players. You can see just off that one recon squad, we're able to generate the next fight, and so like players will have to learn how like they can use that to their advantage, right? Use that recon squad to your advantage. Initiate the fight on your terms where you want to, if you're in the position to do so. So yeah, that's just like a small learning curve thing. It's definitely something that players will adapt to, just because once again it's the meta thing to do to a degree. Like you can engage and start fights on your terms and win the match that way, but it just takes time.
And we start seeing that engagement pop off from the Ranger side, while the rest of the Russian platoon tries to get in position to respond to this. Don't think they're gonna get there really in time, but we are gonna see some sporadic engagements from, like, I would say medium distance for the remainder of the match here.
As Satyr kind of reacting, probably about 15 minutes on the clock here. Still enough time for this battle to develop into something larger.
Yeah, there might be a possibility in which, you know, the Russian team really locks in pretty much beelines, I would say, to the AO and get numerical advantage here, because the Ranger team is still a little bit spread out in terms of like terrain position here.
It does look like these Satyr squads are moving into unfavorable engagements here. 1-1 Satyr being pinched. So once again, learning opportunities, right? The hope is that, you know, next time these two players or these two factions are faced with this situation, they understand how, once again, that recon element can really kick things off. And just finding out how to utilize that recon element, that's important stuff. But just like every lesson learned in Bellum, you kind of have to experience the negative side of it at least once to understand that there is a lesson there to be learned.
Absolutely.
It's like these Ranger elements are playing kind of skittish, pulling back to more defensible locations. And Satyr is taking the bait to a degree. Main push here on the center. Significant amount of skirmishing happening. And Satyr's trying to break contact, reorganize themselves to a degree.
Yeah, we start seeing this medium to close engagements even from the rest of the Russian force really pulling into the AO at this time.
Most definitely. Looks like it's going to be a pretty long linear engagement here.
Yeah. In favor of Rangers so far, though, you know, like they definitely have the right positions right now.
Yeah, they are
They're
in
really
a
where they
superior
want to be.
position.
Yeah.
Satyr isn't really committing the main force here. They're holding some stuff in reserve.
Yeah, very unfortunate that they're doing that right now.
Yeah, even back here, elements are kind of holding in reserve. Big fight here on the north end.
It does seem like this is going to turn into a head-to-head clash and skirmish over this tree line here as the last big engagement of the game. Considering that the entire team is here now, we could really start seeing that turnaround from the Ranger team. You probably even leading to a victory on their side if they play this right.
Yeah, those 240s are really working that open very well here.
Hey, I'm at that building where you got medical attention ever.
Some Ranger casualties definitely on these rocks here. But it's going to be hard to make any assaulting plays across this open ground here, across this terrain.
Yeah, I think it's gonna come down to like just putting down fire and really suppressing the enemy force before they can even consider any sort of maneuver here. Unless we can force something on the far left side of this engagement that you're seeing there, you know. Maybe we can displace the enemy in a way that allows the other component of the Russian team to really push into the area. Yeah, I was just about to say that was a huge thermal.
Satyr's really working this fight. A lot of RPGs, smoke's going out. This is a 50-50 engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. And as those smokes start coming down, we can really start seeing some maneuver from the Ranger, sorry, from the Russian side if they can capitalize off of it.
And Satyr has achieved fire superiority at this time. We'll see if they're able to leverage that into some form of maneuver. Left side skirmishing, holding that left flank, preventing those Satyr elements from collapsing. But the main effort here, Satyr is just winning this gunfight.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, with minutes left on the clock, we really need to see some aggressive movement from either side, or at least secure a win here. or even, you know, attempt to secure a win. Otherwise, we would be moving into a draw. Very interesting. Obviously, the players don't know that, you know, they're running on a clock right now. It's probably super immersive now. But from our perspective, it would be really interesting to see, you know, which team comes out on the aggression side first.
Yeah, I think Satyr definitely is winning this round. I think once again, when these games go to time, I think what we'll end up doing in the future is, like, instead of saying draw, we throw it to the side that has more manpower naturally.
Yeah.
It's just a better feels good. Because Satyr definitely has been winning a lot of these fights.
Yeah, absolutely.
Squad on the left here, kind of bounding in the wrong direction. You want bound back to the main body. They're getting isolated here a little bit, moving out instead of back in, leaving themselves open to get picked apart by that 1-1 Satyr element on that left. But Satyr making considerable gains here on this flank, being able to push up. More RPGs slamming into 1-2 over here. And Satyr taking some ground, taking some casualties naturally with that front push. And these ranger elements here by these rocks are pinned down. Substantially so. And this 1-2 element on the left flank just kind of getting destroyed out here with no support.
And we still have some sporadic maneuvers from the ranger side, you know, try to get as much ground as they're able to. We do have a few RPGs flying right now from both sides. Once again, trying to get some suppression as much as they're able to.
Oh my god, Baker making a push. Yeah, Rangers trying to pull back here. Left flank has been destroyed. Oops, a little too fast here. And that left flank is going to be open now for Satyr to kind of come in and close the gap. If they're able to actually wipe it out in time, that remains to be seen. But they are just sustaining so many casualties. Doing what they can to break contact.
Yeah, at this time, just minutes left on the clock. It would be very interesting if the team emerge victorious from this, even before the
timer runs out.
timer runs out. Yeah, that would be very interesting.
It's gonna come down to the last couple minutes here, but Stater's getting super aggressive. They should know that they wiped out a squad. They have a squad advantage. You can see 1-2 and 1-1 on that left, really pushing in for the kill now.
Yeah, and Satyr definitely has the possibility to like just do an entire
Oh,
poke,
it goes
and
out.
there goes the clock.
They got it, I think.
Maybe.
Or do you think it went to time?
I think it went to time. Right around the clock, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it goes out a little bit more. Satyr takes it.
Absolutely. And yeah, we started seeing just
that was a hard
the
match.
full send from both squads, you know, like now that their match is over.
Yeah, that was a rough match. Satyr getting pretty bully, or Satyr bullying Rangers pretty hard. But it happens. Oh, Satyr won
it does look like Satyr won the match before
That's
the
crazy.
time ran out. Yeah.
That's actually insane. So Satyr
That is
was
insane.
able to close it. Really cool stuff there.
Absolutely. Yeah, probably seconds left to spare if you think about it. Just looking at the stream clock here. Very amazing performance from Satyr overall.
Yeah, Satyr actually managing to finish it there. I'm glad they got their dopamine for it's just such a small thing, right? Just seeing Satyr wins.
Right.
But very important. It is important. So we're moving over
Absolutely.
here to AO2. It's gonna be a long one here.
Yeah, just I got kicked from the server.
Mhm.
If you can DM me the okay. So yeah, and as some of the other servers, you know, are getting finished with their rotations here, we're gonna start winding them down. And as we wait for staging, I am gonna take a quick pause to hydrate once again. But yeah, should be moving into the next round soon here.
Yeah, small break here as we roll into round 2, everyone. Alrighty. We are back now, round 2, the last round of this playtest session. We've got Al Salam in blue here moving out into the map. And then not Rangers, but Satyr here on the right flank. Satyr's now released. We're going to kind of see here how this round plays out. This is now AO2. It's a different AO from the first match. We are now in the northern side of Highlands. This is a much wider open area, a lot more of long range to medium range engagements. There are still some forests that are fought over quite often. It's going to be these 3 forests right here, and then these sparse tree lines do see a lot of action as well. But there were some pretty extensive additions to the map since we last played on it, being these fields here, which make this open area more playable for sure. But Al Salam kind of moving out here, all grouped up to a degree. And Satyr as well, pushing out as a platoon at this point.
Yeah, and just washing down the adrenaline from seeing Satyr win that last round with literal like actual seconds left on the clock,
Yeah.
most likely.
Yeah, literally seconds on the
Here, what's
clock, and Satyr was able to close it out. That's super cool.
Push up, gotcha, before you bumped up the hill. Okay. Where the hell are you? Okay, I see you. Go ahead and keep pushing.
Very cool to see. Very excited for this last round of the weekend.
My downfall, because I get too excited, so I'm gonna... Anything you want me to focus on? Yeah, if you can actually, help out 1-2 down in the south, eventually I'll make my way over to 1-1. Gotcha. Alright, I'm pushing out of pub now. Gotcha. So have they said what they're going to add to the 2 IC position for when they actually do that? Wait, what? Do you know what they're going to add for command asset or first command?
We got a little trolling going on, perhaps. Our first troll?
No idea. That's a good question.
Let's see here.
You get him? I was just about to get him.
Did you get him?
No, I didn't get him. Did you get him?
He disconnected already.
Disconnected. Okay.
Al Salam here, getting a good spread this far. Moving up some elements here, as well as onto the eastern flank. Couple of elements from 1-1. Al Salam in the center here. Satyr setting up most of the platoon on the northeast flank here. I think we're going to see a north to south engagement for the most part.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we're gonna see like pretty much. I hope not, but we're most likely gonna see an uphill battle here from blue team here, which
Al
I
Salam
believe is
here.
yep, Al Salam.
Yeah, I think we're pretty pooped as well. 2 live streams. A lot of casting.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of casting, especially something where you and I mean, I know for a fact we're definitely not used to, you know. But
It's been a minute for sure.
yeah, a cool experience for sure.
Contact
Hopefully, we can keep
1-2.
doing this come the new year and in the future, you know.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so apologies to those watching, you know, energy running low over here at the chair. So please bear with us as we approach the ending of also a very
Very
hard
busy
week
year.
of work.
Oh
Yep.
shit, I didn't even pay attention to this. There's a whole fight down here erupting.
Yep.
We've got a 1-3 Satyr versus 1-2 Al Salam.
Yeah, also I'm quick on the movement here, you know, realizing that they're indefinitely, so like the best course of action here is probably just get away from the little bowl. You know, Russians being able to put down so much explosive or so much explosive fire. You know, they definitely realize that it's not a position that they want to be in by any means.
Yeah, it does look like that's the Al Salam faction was able to initiate the engagement first. There's some casualties from 1-3 actually on the ground, and no casualties from Al Salam. So very interesting engagement. Looks like that ambush did work in their favor. Can they capitalize here? This is a lone Satyr squad. There are 2 Al Salam elements here that could be utilized in order to pick these guys off if we're quick enough. And it looks like we are seeing some of that movement here from 1-2 kind of kick out around the bend on the south. Yeah, some rapid flanking.
Yeah, as
attempted.
I mentioned, like very quick on those maneuvers, you know, in that decision making process, just almost instant, you know, like we don't want to get bogged down by the other team in this bowl, drag the rest of the team to like try to rescue us. So definitely taking the right decisions here to like ensure that they're in the right spot. And as we say that, another battle starts taking place here on the left.
Yeah, 1-1 Al Salam here engaging 1-2 and 1-1 from Satyr. They're going to be overmatched here quite substantially. They're going to want to break contact as much as possible. Not the spot you want to be in fighting against conventional forces, especially with numerical overmatch. The question is if they're going to be able to exit before they take any casualties, and making that movement before you take casualties is critical, right? Because the second you end up with a casualty, you have to then make that decision. Are you leaving them? Are you going to try to stay and provide aid? Looks like the main force from 1-1 is trying to bound out. Looks like that Alpha team making that first bound to a degree. But, yeah, they got to start moving. It's going to be pretty gnarly here quickly. I think think these guys got tagged up a little bit. Oh, good GL here. Definitely throwing some frag into that Grenadier Overlord. But
Yeah, and
these guys do need to
especially
move.
as that information gets disseminated from the Russian side, like making sure we're passing on those callouts that we are hitting them pretty hard, and we do see some casualties down in the ground. Being able to capitalize off this aggression is very much going to pay well for the Russian side,
Yeah, and
depending on
Satyr,
what their next move is here.
you can definitely tell there's good communication here, knowing that there's an element up here from Satyr and knowing they have one here. This element down here, 1-2 and 1-3, Satyr are moving quite rapidly to see if they can take care of this isolated element, which is once again exactly what you want to do as Al-Salam, as an unconventional faction, just avoiding any one-to-one engagements as much as possible. The trick here is going to be the perfect maneuver out from Al-Salam in order to make sure they lose nothing in this engagement. And if they can swing this 1-2 Bravo win and go through this assault quite cleanly, this should be a 1-3 Satyr squad wipe just out in the wind with no support.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you caught this before, but we do have War Daddy leading the insurgent forces. So it is going to be a very interesting display of leadership here, I hope.
Yeah, and being able to see that leadership is very critical, seeing how important command plays. And that could be a double-edged sword in some regards, right? Experience versus inexperienced commanders. But there's only one way to get experience, and that's by making those mistakes, playing the game, and learning. Yeah, this Satyr element caught with their tail between their legs in this ditch, and just about to be absolutely overrun by essentially the main body here.
Yeah, and they're probably going to be able to pick up a couple of here on the insurgent side. But you got to remember, right? Like this Satyr is completely essentially cut off from the rest of the platoon, right? So even if they do take some casualties, the insurgents have it as easy as just picking them back up and continue moving.
Yep, and that is a good isolated squad that was picked off right there. Exactly what you want to see. Requires that reconnaissance, require that intelligence, and that aggression, identifying the isolated element. So now it's going to be interesting to see how Satyr responds to that wipe.
Tell 1-2 to get online.
Yeah, we do immediately as soon as the guys start going down, we see more movement from the Satyr side on the far left. Trying to get some more eyes down in that general direction and occupying more terrain off that tree line, making sure they're not getting walked on by any other elements. We got to remember that this squad that was engaged previously, all the knowledge they have is that they are engaged, by all accounts on the ground. Everything that Satyr knows right now is that there are 2 squads accounted for, right? 2 enemy squads, but they have no confirmation of that 3rd enemy squad wherever they are. So it's very interesting to see, how they're not taking any chances and actually holding down security and actually holding down those edges of the tree line to make sure that once again they don't get walked on.
Yeah, very good job from this team to ensure that they're keeping that security up. Satyr trying to move to assist, but we can just see like terrain, like having all this open space. It's just too far spread out. If you get caught out like that with your pants down, it can be a very devastating issue. Satyr attempting some harassing fires at this range, unable to really follow through here. If they do follow through, it would have to be a very aggressive frontal push bounding through these tree line gaps, but it would be very dangerous to conduct that as well. I think they're just trying to conduct some or inflict some casualties at range, which they are being relatively successful. Yeah, this is not a gunfight you really want to sustain for an extended duration if you can avoid it. They are going to try to leverage their numbers, and the question right now is, will those numbers be enough to repel both these 2 Satyr squads? Really ballsy play from 1-2, getting aggressive here now. I think this ridge might just that ridge is barely covering them. Aggressive movement here, and from the commander perspective, right? Satyr does acknowledge 1 squad, or excuse me, Al-Salam acknowledges 1 squad is off the board. This is the time to make plays, right? Until that squad comes back into the AO, Al-Salam has a numerical advantage on the board, and they're going to be able to force the issue here, which is what they're going to try to do. Looks like they're trying to keep them fixed with this 1 element here with 1-1, while sending 1-2 and 1-3 on a very bold flank. We are seeing Seder attempt that frontal aggression here as well, trying to bully their ways through it. But this could end up being quite catastrophic if they cannot push fast enough to avoid this main hammer coming down from Al-Salam on the right flank. A very dangerous crossing here now. I don't think there's a easy ridge that they can utilize. They'd have to go further north, and once again, that takes time, and time is of the essence currently.
That's perfectly fine.
But also, I'm trying to force the issue here with the numerical advantage, or excuse me, with the firepower advantage. Definitely, we are seeing still some of those casualties still in place. You know, there is a window here as well for Seder to... Did you see that? Is that happening to you too?
No, what happened?
There's a medic just got ragdolled across the map. I've never seen that before.
I did not see
you
that.
See
no.
Echo at the top of the map, or maybe he got revived. You see Echo?
I did not see that. No, it might just be on your
Might
end.
just be on my end. Then he might actually still be down
but
here.
We, you know, as you say that, we have that insurgent element that maneuvered before, and we have that now in position, laying down suppression fire. While simultaneously another squad goes on for a squad attack on the right flank here.
Yeah, Al-Salam really being super aggressive. And you can see that cohesion and that teamwork really coming to play and really being that much of a force multiplier. The question is going to be, can Seder win these engagements, 2-on-1 engagements here? But they're point blank with these guys.
Yeah, unfortunately though, platoon leader for Al-Salam walks out into an entire Seder element. Does take out a couple of them, but is it enough to really slow down that assault and allow the squad on the rear to really lick their wounds and break contact from that position? I guess we'll have to see. Simultaneously, when that happens, we do have that squad attack taking place right now on that previous enemy position. They do seem to have a couple casualties already down in the area, so it'll be very interesting to see if Al-Salam is able to really capitalize on it and clean up all these bodies here. We do see the line come up almost immediately. You know, everyone, as we mentioned before, we have to like clear a large area like this that is most likely the most viable formation to do something like that. But yeah, you know, and we it's very interesting now that we see the spread. You know, we have the 1-7 over here in Saltcourse, and we up until a few minutes ago we had the 1-6 on the planning side. You know, on the left side, making sure that everything is planned and executed accordingly. So very good display of organization and leadership so far from the Al-Salam team. Very cool round. Very good things seen so far. Really interested to see what the outcome is of this engagement.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a brawl here. But I think this is going to end up being a complete platoon wipe of Seder at this point. Just very aggressive plays from Al-Salam, just moving rapidly on the flank, right? Just abusing speed and distraction and confusion to the maximum, and just overrunning Seder forces on all flanks. Really, you can see how having a confident leader and a confident plan affects the gameplay. This is a very different vibe from Al-Salam than previously, with, you know, different squad leaders potentially taking up those positions. And you can see that Seder is on the ropes already as far as in the AO. They might force a full platoon wipe at this point.
Yeah, I do believe this is going to come down to a full platoon wipe, as you mentioned. Very amazingly, they pulled through. And yeah, just as I said, just an excellent display of proper command and control tactics from leadership so far. An excellent display of organization. Almost textbook. I want
pretty textbook guerrilla tactics, identifying the isolated element, working quickly to absolutely execute it, and then using that window that is gained from that squad wipe to continue like the pressure across the map rapidly. Really aggressive, bold maneuvers coming out from Al-Salam, and it really did pay off. So excellent work from the Al-Salam team, and Seder just too slow to respond. Also just recognizing that, like, making this aggressive play while on the back foot, sending an element to assault while you had one already killed, you're a 2 to 3, right, kind of disadvantage, and you're making an offensive play. They paid for it. They very much did pay for that play. So hopefully that's a lesson that the Seder leadership can walk away from and improve on. But definitely, you know, super good cohesion from the Al Salam platoon, and that's just what you want to see. That's what wins games here.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think we do have overall just a complete platoon wipe for Seder. We do have some elements back in the AO right now. At this point, I think they realize that it's just not worth it to just chase the bodies and try to like get anything out of it. I think they all realize that they need to reorganize and take a step back, maybe consider a new approach, and see if they can recover from this.
Yeah, definitely gonna need a small break here to reorganize, come up with another plan, work as a platoon together. That is the name of the game. That is the key thing to do. Yeah, it's gonna take Seder a second here to kind of regroup themselves. The question is if Al-Salam will attempt once again to force the issue. It looks like Seder's kind of engaging ghosts in the tree line here. Not really too sure. Exposing their position and once again giving another opportunity to Al-Salam if they see it, exposing their position and compromising their spot. If Al-Salam recognizes that, hey, there's another Ranger squad out here, or Seder squad out here that's kind of just chilling and moving on it, they could. There's a window to do so. But I imagine they're also running low on munitions, on supplies, and it might kind of temper or kind of taper that aggression slightly as they continue eastbound again.
Yeah, absolutely. And we start seeing we see some friendly fire, unfortunately, from Al Salam. He's playing into the insurgent trade here too much. While the Russian team maneuvers on the edge of the tree line, getting this high ground, pretty much turning around the tables, hopefully, see if they can achieve anything out of this maneuver here.
Yeah, some friendly fire for sure occurring. Some confusion, fast, rapid maneuvers will do that.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, for sure. We start to see that realization from Al Salam that maybe we are shooting in the friendlies, guys. Like stop, and that reorganization of the entire platoon here on this bowl. So yeah, I think that was a very interesting engagement from the from our perspective, seeing all of the pieces fall into place. And as we see the rest of the Russian component walk into the AO, we should start wondering, what the next play is going to be. It does seem like the one tree squad is, holding in place at the edge of the tree line, just getting that early reconnaissance, early information in place right now for the assault. So very curious to see, what the outcome is going to be of that. Are we going to go for a different approach, or are we going to try to skirmish from afar?
Most definitely. Definitely seeing that reset as you mentioned. I'm curious what the plan is for Seder. And yeah, there's a little bit also of a comeback mechanic as well once this happens, because you have to consider, as we mentioned earlier, the supplies and munitions of Al Salam must be running low at this point, while Seder is coming in fresh with new ammunition, full health and whatnot. So it's going to be interesting to see if that plays any effect in this next engagement. But we can see some separation already happening from Al Salam. They're spreading out, trying to get a good coverage over the map to once again be able to affect massive, really rapid, fast maneuvers as the opportunities arise. And this is definitely you can tell there's some experienced Al Salam players on this team, understanding the strengths of the faction and how it has to play differently.
Yeah, now just flying into the ground here, I can see that the one tree squad from Crusader does spot the enemy force maneuvering right now, but they're choosing to hold in place and report back to the entire platoon. Disseminate that information down the chain and make sure that leadership can make an informed decision about the next steps to take here.
Yeah, some long range GLs going out.
And it is very interesting, you know, like as we see that happen, as we see those GLs come out, that immediately gives away the position to the enemy team. And as I'm flying around listening to this guy's VoIP, I can tell that some of the guys on the ground are immediately calling out the direction over to the command chain and having them disseminate that information once again. You know, we've this has been like a recurring theme throughout the weekend where we discussed that. You know, a lot of these battles are decided off of information alone, right? Not even like it. Maybe it doesn't even come down to tactics in some instances, right? Like it all starts with the right info and with the right knowledge of the map and the map state.
Ooh, RPG's going out as well. Yeah, just some long range skirmishing. We can also see, once again, as we mentioned, some elements from the Al Salam faction do need a rearm. And that's, you know, that provides an opportunity for Seder if they can identify it to force the issue. But doesn't look like Seder is in really too much of a position to do so. Looks like they're trying to hold more of a defensive posture.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if I was in the Seder side right now, I would definitely just be waiting for the right opportunity, to, like abuse some bad positioning or some opening in the perimeter here. You know, not having as much information as we do, they obviously cannot take these decisions. But we start seeing some maneuvers and some moves to get more terrain secured from the Seder side on that tree line, essentially, you know, negating that terrain for the insurgent side. What they don't know, and you just mentioned it, right, is that like half the insurgent team right now is just back at base or moving back to base or resupply. Um, so I think for the next few minutes here, what we're gonna have to see is some long range skirmishes and just some, you know, overall observation from both teams, seeing whichever team, you know, moves first, and we can spot that movement. And then once again, just flying around on the, you know, close to the ground, it does seem like both teams have knowledge of the enemy positions right now, but I do not believe that we have any, you know, general consensus of how we want to approach the situation, or, you know, what the path to take is going to be. I think right now we're, you know, witnessing the dissemination and planning process from both teams, right? Like, you know, we know insurgents don't want to rush in because they, you know, they're low on strength and low on ammunition, but we do know that the Seder, you know, fresh of the redeploy, are still trying to figure out how they're going to approach this situation altogether. It does seem from the platoon commander for the Russian side that there is going to be a large attempt to make a push for or a break for the northeastern portion of the map, just leaving there an element down at the rear, making sure they don't get walked on by the rest of the insurgent element, which does seem like a good notion overall, considering that, you know, last time they essentially got walked on and counterflanked by the opposing team. Meanwhile, the insurgents are just overall just holding in place, you know, sticking to their domain right now, holding the positions that they already control, which is definitely the right call, especially if they, you know, as we saw, they're undermanned at the moment. But we should start seeing some development here in the next few minutes as the Russian team continues their movement northeast in pretends to take some more terrain, especially uphill in this little elevator area.
Yeah, Satyr trying to figure out what's the play here. We often see these kind of like open field kind of defenses, which doesn't really make too much sense from a certain perspective. Like, you're never really going to see assaults across major open areas. You're never really going to see enemy players make that kind of movement. So I know like everyone's kind of waiting on these large open areas, hoping that they can spot that kind of aggression or maneuver and catch it and punish it. But in the vast scheme of the majority of the games played, it's almost a waste of time sometimes to be doing this, mainly because you're never going to see anything like that happen if the other team's playing properly or logically. And we've already seen that this team demonstrated that they understand how to maximize their movement in regards to the terrain. So trying to get some additional value on the map while you're out here is important. We are finally seeing some of that shifting movement out. Seeing a big Satyr platoon movement here to the north. It'll probably be hopping over westbound. They might be able to catch a Satyr element as well.
Yeah, we are seeing that maneuver, right? Really interesting to see how that plays out to Russians' benefit, considering the entire platoon is right there. We do have the remainder of the insurgent team though now running back into the AO after they've resupplied. So Russia really has the chance here, like do something pretty good to like shift the tides back in their favor, considering they are, well, for the most part, all down one life at this time. So we're assuming around 60% manpower. Otherwise, we're gonna have to be waiting a bit longer to see how the game actually develops in a way that allows the Russian team to really, really benefit from any sort of bad positioning or openings in the line, as we mentioned before.
We are seeing this scouting Al-Salam element run into a Russian squad here. And we're seeing that break back, right? That hit and run tactic. They're going to be able to keep this Satyr element pretty bottled up for a substantial amount of time. And you can see the rest of the Al-Salam element moving to kind of get in position to respond.
Alright, fellas.
Yeah, and it does seem like we're about to hit a very large engagement overall for control of this area, as all elements maneuver into place.
Also, I'm making a bold flank to the north. Hopefully, I think the plan here is to draw attention to the south here and slip in behind the Seder element. There's still a whole squad from either team not necessarily in this fight.
Watch my, look at my enemy markers. That's the path they're taking right now.
And Alzalam's trying to be slippery here, not take too many losses, but Seder moving in on the flank here. Super sketch positioning. They are going to catch a couple of these Alzalam elements out. 1-3 here. Now has the attention of 2 Seder elements. Good RPG going out here. I think these guys are down for the count. Or this guy is at the very least. But we do see Seder aggression here coming in. Might be able to start turning this game if this maneuver on the north takes too long. Al-Zalam is down a squad here, and they do not necessarily have the best positional advantage.
But we do have an ambush from Al-Zalam uphill, just catching Seder completely unaware.
Yeah, and then that Seder element up north, as you mentioned, getting in from the rear. Some devastating results here. We'll see if they continue pressing that flank or try to maneuver again. But 1-3 getting chewed up down here on the south for sure. We're seeing 1-3 Seder respond, orienting north now. And some pretty substantial damage coming out. Oh my lord. Aggression here from 1-1 Al-Zalam. But there are still a significant amount of Seder up here. Let's see. Yeah, and one Al-Zalam squad just out of position, not able to provide any value in this engagement. Might be the difference.
Yeah, it honestly might be the difference between winning and losing the fight right now. Unless that Al-Zalam element can really wrap around behind this other Russian squad and really, you know, turn the tide on that whole general direction and start clearing from south to north. We currently do have that 1-1 Al-Zalam squad holding it down on top of the hill, just, you know, keeping the Russian team in check, essentially, trying to make as much breathing room as they can for the rest of the team.
Yeah, there's a whole Al-Zalam element coming in. Pretty gnarly engagement here. The question is if this 1-1 element up north can reconstitute, but I think leadership is down here.
I said 1-2's making their
This
point
element
right now.
might be
They're about,
wiped.
15 meters behind me.
But 1-2 is coming in. They might be able to get in here, and like if they can get in here and attend to the Mascal of 1-3, that is massive, right? And they can pick the fight up again from there. There's not many guys still alive from 1-3, but if they can somehow reconstitute it, that's critical.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they could definitely just turn this entire thing around in favor of the Al-Zalam team.
Yeah, and Seder...
You see how many casualties are being taken at the moment on the Seder side?
Oh my lord. He's completely overrun. Yeah, and if they can get this fire team leader back up, that is massive. That is honestly massive.
Got a casualty over here.
Looks like they are opting to finish the fight first, which is smart. And we do have medical being attended to in the rear.
Yeah, I'm working.
The 1-1, yeah, full wiped here. And now this fight's gonna develop up here up in the north. One three, rooting out the last bit of 1-1 here. Still a significant amount of casualties. And I honestly, Al-Salam might just be so far ahead on the manpower that if they just pick up whoever they can here and jam north and take out that remaining element, they might be able to close out the game that fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is what we're seeing actually from the Al-Salam team, you know, trying to lick, you know, leaving the command element behind to continue tending to the wounded and just keeping the entire assault force, you know, on their task. Just keep harassing the entire rest of the enemy element and keep taking as much round as we're able to. You know, we have the confirmation that there is an element pretty banged up uphill. And, you know, using that information to try to...
Oh my
and
god,
there we go.
already. Yeah, just an absolute demolishing and bullying from Al-Salam, really utilizing their speed, utilizing cohesion, and you can just see how impactful that is. So definitely a much different game two, a very fast game two, all things considered. Aggression and just understanding where enemy elements are, it is critical to the experience. So fantastic job. Congrats to Al-Salam taking on this conventional force and understanding the opportunities. Really a textbook example of divide and conquer. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. Musical, I am exhausted. It has been a hell of a year. It's been a hell of a weekend. So yeah, tons of fun. Had a great time. As always, guys, if you're interested in checking out this project or learning more about it, we will be picking up closed alpha tests in the new year as well, after we get settled after a break. But that's going to be at playbellum.com. You can also head over to Discord, check out the community. A lot of new players, growing pains with that, of course, naturally. But really cool to see, you know, people jump in first time, get a hand on the ropes, and you know, feel it. It's pretty hardcore down there. It seems easy and simple from the air, but you got to know that just every decision these guys make is very stressful, very punishing, and it really does do a very good job of showing how important it is to really immerse yourself in the experience. That's going to be it. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time.